Hey there, if you're ready to take your mobile notary and loan signing business to the next level, you're in the right place. Welcome to the Sign and Thrive podcast with Bill Soroka, that's me, and friends. Let's go and get it.
Go and get it. Go and get it. You won't go and get it while the night is young.
Hey everyone, as you're going out and getting it, remember that time is money. If you want to save 15 minutes per appointment and still stay in compliance and best practice standards for your Notary Journal, check out the Notary E-Journal by Jurat Inc. It's designed to help improve your workflow and efficiency, and it allows you to capture signatures and fingerprints digitally right on your phone or tablet. This is the journal of the future. If you're ready to save time, money, and wow your customers, try the Notary E-Journal for just $1 at notarycoach.com/eJournal. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Sign and Thrive podcast for notaries. I'm excited to introduce you to our guest today, Jane Wenning. She's a health mentor for the last 20 years and has helped people improve their mental and their physical health. Jane, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Bill, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to talk to your audience.
Yeah, my pleasure. Well, I'll tell you right now, Jane, and we'll get a chance to talk about this, but in our industry, we're going through this upheaval, a major period of change. There's a lot of people feeling stressed about that, feeling the pressure as there's a pivot required right now. So I'm glad that we get a professional to talk to about that. But then also, one of the big challenges in our industry is that we live this mobile lifestyle. Our entire office is in our car sometime, and we're running around from appointment to appointment to appointment. And we often forget our own self-care in that. And I know that this is a place where you are an expert. You've got your 4 pillars of health that I can't wait to introduce everybody to. And before we do that, though, I want our notaries to get an idea of why you're so passionate about this holistic approach to health.
Okay. So my story starts back when I was 11 and I was body shamed. And for the next decade, I carried around so much hurt, so much anger, the self-loathing, the not feeling worthy enough. The depression, the anxiety that went with it, it went with me. It moved with me when I went to college. And I finally got to a place in my life where I wanted to be better, but I knew that I couldn't heal if I was coming from a place where I hated myself.
Ooh,
so I had to get over that. I had to accept that this is where I am at this moment in time. And then used my knowledge as a clinical laboratory scientist and an athletic trainer to put together a program that would propel me to be the person that I wanted to be. So it started with acceptance. And then from there, I was able to move into a space of healing.
What's that look like? What's acceptance?
Wow. You know what? Acceptance is looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, I like you, or I even love you, but here's some things that I'm not happy about. And then taking those action steps to change those. You don't have to change all of who you are. You can keep the fabric of your integrity and change some of the other details about your life and maybe what you don't like. But again, if you don't come from a place where you accept where you are right now, and if you're always looking at the past and looking at the pain, you're not going to move forward.
That's powerful. And one of the, I've been following you for a little bit now after we first connected. And one of the things that you talked about is feeling like healthy eating is a chore. And I feel like when you talk about acceptance, that there's some sort of link here for me, because I struggle with that. So it just feels like it's this huge endeavor to eat healthy, like to go to the grocery store, to plan meals out. I'm like, I plan every minute of my day except for that. So is there a link there? What is that all about?
Yeah, there is definitely a link there because I think we are given so many mixed messages by media that, oh, this thing is healthy and that thing is healthy, but they're not really healthy. We know in the back of our mind that real food is the nutrients that our body needs and not things that are coming out of boxes and bags. But yet we do, Bill. We live these crazy busy lives. And so it's hard to walk that line between having healthy food and having quick food. That is that's a crazy fine line to walk. And it takes a lot of mindfulness and some practice. But once you get over that learning curve, you can make healthy eating, a very realistic, easy choice every day. And here's the other thing that I like to tell people that I work with, that I follow the 3 C's. Okay. No one is perfect. We shouldn't strive to be perfect because then we set a bar that is so high, it's unrealistic and it only sets us up for defeat. So the 3 C's are to be consistent. And whatever your consistent is, if your consistent is 80-20 or 70-30, stick to your consistent. But know that if you get off of the bandwagon, if you fall off of your consistent pattern, you got to get back on. So being aware of that. The next C is creativity. Because even though we might have our meals all planned out for us or a majority of our meals planned out for us, life is going to happen, right? And especially for your team, they are out on the run all the time. So life happens quickly. You have to be creative. And then the third C is compassion. So you set out your plan for the day and you were creative. Life happened and you didn't quite hit your mark that day. You have to give yourself the compassion because if you don't, you're just going to continue to keep yourself in that place of hurt, and you can never heal from a place of hurt.
I love that you've even included compassion in there because even as you were talking about consistency and creativity, which could be the marketing 3 C's too, right? But it's perfect for eating as well, or your health as well. But the compassion part is such a huge component because we all slip off. I slip off of, especially with eating rituals or habits on the day one. And I tend to beat myself up about that and that fall into that shame cycle. And then it's really easy to justify a pint of ice cream.
Right.
When you're in that shame cycle, right?
Yep. Oh, absolutely. So by giving yourself that compassion, you can let go of that hurt. And you can move forward. If you hold on to that guilt and that shame, that's only going to make you reach for something else in that category that brought on that guilt and shame. Because here's the thing, your brain has a system. It's called the reticular activating system. And what you tell yourself becomes very important. So when you tell yourself, I'm a poor eater. I make mistakes all the time. I can never make good food choices. Your brain is going to look for things that solidify that. You're going to be looking for all the food in the house that is going to bring you guilt, that's going to bring you shame, that's going to prove that you are not a mindful eater. So you can't tell yourself those things. You have to let them go and tell yourself, wow, you know what? That was not a good choice. I'm better than that. I can make better choices than that. When your brain hears that, that's what it's going to focus on then. It's going to focus on the better choices. When you say health is important to me, it's going to start focusing on things that are going to keep you healthy because you just told your brain that health is important to you. So our self-talk is so, so important.
It really is. And I love that you brought up the reticular activating system because to me, this was the science behind the law of attraction. Like this is why the law of attraction works because when you program your mind and your mind starts looking for things, it's processing billions of pieces of data. But when you start having that conversation in your brain, it starts finding those things out in the world.
Yes.
So you start to notice them.
Yes.
And it can work in so many different areas of our life. So that the self-talk ties right into that. So what are some of your favorite affirmations for this to help us have those healthier conversations in our mind?
Okay, so I have two. My first one is when I'm feeling overwhelmed and not worthy, I step back and I say, okay, my God loves me, my family loves me, and I love me. I don't care what anyone else out there thinks about me. And this is a rough world. People are very mean. They hide behind their computer screens and they can be very critical, and it's hard. You can say that you're developing thick skin, but it's really hard to grow that thick skin. But when you pull back and you look at what's really, really, who are the people that are really important in your life that love you, that can help your self-talk. And then the other piece is the word surrender. You cannot control all the outcomes. You can only control what you put into a situation. So if you put what you can into a situation and you let go of the outcome, but then still, and it's not to just sit back and think that things are going to happen for you. You still have to put the work in, but don't get overly pressured by what the outcome might be. When you can just surrender that and say, you know what, I did my best today. That's another piece of giving yourself that compassion.
Yeah. Well, I love that you talk about that. As a self-proclaimed control freak, I really struggled with letting go of outcomes for much of my life. But I remember I had almost a spiritual experience on a hike once where things were kind of collapsing around me. And I was hiking with a friend up this mountain just to get out and change the energy, right? Shake it up a little bit. And this voice came to me that just said, surrender, surrender, surrender. And I didn't know what it meant until, you get home and you get in the day-to-day life and you start facing those situations and you're like, surrender. Oh, this is what it means. It means that I've done all I can.
Yes. Yep.
Let it go now.
Yeah.
Powerful lesson.
It definitely does not mean to just sit like a lump and let life pass you by.
Right. It's the opposite, I think.
Yes. Surrender is very active. It means putting your whole self in, but then stepping back and letting the outcome happen rather than try and control the outcome. Just let the outcome happen.
There's a book, I guess it's not very new, but I had never heard of it, by Seth Godin. It's called The Practice. And he talks about the power of the practice, the joy in life, the reason, the purposes that we do things is more in the process. It's in that work. It's in that hard work. It's not the outcome. It's not the results. We've been kind of trained the opposite, right? You've got to have this result, this result, this result. But that's not where the joy and the growth comes from. It's in all the steps in between. So when you focus on the process or who you become along the way, then those results just seem to take care of themselves.
Wow.
You just got to let them go, surrender.
It's crazy because then it's almost like they manifest themselves.
Yeah.
When you enjoy the process, when you enjoy the growth of a challenging day and overcoming obstacles and how it makes you a stronger person, the process is great, and the outcome then is great as well.
It's like magnified too, because you become somebody else. So the next day, and you don't get this until you get it, right? Like I used to think this was I could read all the affirmations. I could do yeah, okay, I kind of get that. I want to believe in that. But until you get in and you experience it, and it's that that almost enchanting high when you're in the process. It's something magical is out. You don't know what it is, but you can feel it tingling inside you. And then the result doesn't matter, but it comes anyway.
Right.
Times 10.
Right. So, and sometimes you become a stronger, smarter, more resilient version of yourself. And you're like, wow, where did that come from? I love that.
Yeah, exactly. And then sometimes the result that you were working for doesn't even work, right? But who you became in the process just opened the door to another new idea, another new project, another new process to work on. So really magical stuff. I love that little sidebar that we did. We took there on that. That was awesome. I want to come back to a couple of things that you had mentioned. It was body shaming. And I know that as a coach who talks to notaries all over the country, that this is a sensitive topic for many of us as notaries, because we have all kinds of different backgrounds as we come into this industry. We have all kinds of different body types. We have all kinds of different baggage that we're dragging along with us from that other life into this business. And now we're faced with being the face of a company. We're CEOs of our solopreneur venture, right? So we've got to walk in and pop in and do marketing. We got to go to networking meetings, and we have these opinions about our body and how we look. And that can be detrimental to us. Sometimes it's freezing many of us from even participating in that activity. And that client getting activity is necessary. So do you have any recommendations or suggestions for people to overcome this level of body shame?
Body shame it's really difficult because it goes so deep. It strikes the core of who we are, and in an instant, it can change how we view ourselves. It's something that can take a long time to overcome, but I think when you employ good health for yourself, when you pay attention to your health, then the body is it's just the outward piece, and it's not who you are on the inside. But here's the thing. When you don't like who you are on the outside, you're not healthy and good on the inside. Because as you know, Bill, where our mind goes, our body goes. So when your mind is stuck in that body shaming box, that's where your body goes. Whether you're fit or not, that's where your body goes. When you walk in front of somebody, you automatically project those shaming thoughts off of them back onto yourself. And they're not even thinking that at all. It's everything that's coming from you mentally. So the way to change that is to learn to love who you are. Now, there are a number of ways to do that. We talked about the acceptance piece. We talked about the affirmations. But again, look in the mirror, and what is it that you don't like about yourself? Is it your attitude? Is it, the dark circles under your eyes? Okay. There's a remedy for that. There's a magic pill actually for that. It's called your pillow. Get more sleep. Okay. We can touch on that later. But when you look in the mirror and take a good account of yourself, not a critical account of yourself, but take a good account of yourself, you can turn down the volume on that body shaming stuff, and you can really transform yourself from the inside out.
Awesome. And I love the framework that you give people for that. So that's a perfect segue, Jane. You've created these 4 pillars of health that you designed just to help you, right? This was how you started coming about, and it kind of evolved now. And this is part of your coaching.
Yep. So in the beginning, I didn't have the 4 pillars. I, like a lot of people, focused on nutrition and movement and thought that was everything that was going to get me down this journey to health. And like your audience, I'm a solopreneur. I wear many hats. I come from an entrepreneurial background. My dad was an entrepreneur, all my siblings, and I have many, with the exception of one, are all business owners. My husband is a business owner. So I understand, and I have 3 businesses myself. So I understand the amount of energy that it takes to be a solopreneur. And I found myself at one point, my husband, here's the thing. You think that you're racing around like crazy. You have to be on point for your spouse and your family and your business. And you think that you've got the world by the tail, and then something happens. So my eating was on point. My movement was on point. I would take a little bit of time every day to decompress. But one day my husband called me and he said, "Hey, HR just told me that a check I gave you a couple months ago, a paycheck, hasn't been deposited yet. Could you check on that and see where it is?" And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, see, because in addition to my other things, I was also in charge of all of the family finances. And so I'm thinking, oh, well, it's got to just be here in my desk. And I went through my desk and I looked and looked and looked for that check. I was not going to call him back and say, "Hey, have him reissue one." I mean, what was wrong with me? I felt like I was losing my mind. I finally found the check in a briefcase that I hadn't used in over a year. Why it was in that brief, I have no idea. So I started looking back on my life and thinking, wow, what is wrong with me? And I realized, Bill, that the piece that was missing for me was recovery. And recovery was causing so much brain fog, I didn't even realize it. So I would go to bed at 10 o'clock every night because that was bedtime. But before I went to bed, I would have 2 or 3 big glasses of water. So I knew that my bladder would wake me up in a few hours. And when it did, I would get up and start working. So I was running on 3 or 4 hours of sleep every night and trying to be on point for all of these different people and all of these different companies in my life. It hit me when I realized what I was doing to myself.
Wow.
So,
and that's just not sustainable,
no,
right?
It's not. And people wear lack of sleep as a badge of honor. And I will tell you right now, the only thing that lack of sleep is going to get you is a place in assisted living, because there are so many cognitive decline things that happen, so many metabolic things to your body, so many disease states that begin to fester when you don't get enough sleep.
Wow. That's hugely important. And, I think we're breaking that stigma, right? Like it used to be the badge of honor. It still is for many people. I see it on social media. But now I think Arianna Huffington had a big part in that too. She's really been an advocate for sleep after what happened with her. So I love that we're shifting into this.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and this is something that just like our weight, it sneaks up on us and we don't really realize that it's becoming an issue until something catastrophic happens.
Yeah.
So I lost that paycheck, or you go to the doctor and you find out that you have high cholesterol or you have high glucose. And then it's like, wow, what do I need to do to revamp my lifestyle? I mean, those are the things that when you look in the mirror, those are the things that you need to see. You need to see, am I tired and unenergetic? Am I crumbling on the inside? And it's just not showing up on the outside yet. So those are important things. When you look in the mirror, it's not about being critical of your physical appearance. We all want better hair and a better nose and a bigger this or a smaller that. But look deeper into that mirror and see the inside you. Because once you start to transform and change that inside you, you become so powerful.
Yeah, great advice. Great advice. And so there's still this stigma with recovery. Even if it's not necessarily sleep, like some people will say, well, I get 8 to 10 hours of sleep. Like I get 8 to 10 hours of sleep, but I still had to overcome the recovery piece, just take a break, like unplug and recover. give yourself that break? How do people, or what suggestions do you have for allowing that?
That kind of ties into my emotional energy pillar, where you
Nice.
unplug. Statistics show that, and this will be interesting for all your audience. Statistics show that you should move your body every 25 minutes. And for all of your mobile people, that can be really hard because we are stuck in traffic. And I've been there. There are times running between job sites where I have put 200 miles a day on my car. And I know what it's like to be stuck in traffic and not to be mobile. But that is, that's one of the gifts that you have to give yourself, is to be creative and take these moments, turn off the music, because we are so overstimulated. Our brains are so overstimulated by the next thing we have to do and the next thing we have to do. And then you've got the music playing, and then you've got your phone going on. Just taking some time when you're in your car to turn everything off and just have that silence is a great, great helper. But during your day, you need to, when you're able, to remember to move your body, because that does a whole host of benefits, both energetically and cognitively to yourself. And that's a form of recovery. Making sure you're hydrated is a great form of recovery. And they also play into the emotional pillar, because when you are dehydrated, you don't realize some of the negative consequences of not bathing your cell. Your cells need fluid to move the toxins out and to move the good stuff in. And when you're not hydrated, the toxins stay in your cells, and that can really, really increase your anxiety, depression, and then overall just body fatigue.
It's interesting, the timing of this, because over the weekend, I had a friend who had to go to the emergency room. He's a senior having some respiratory distress, so I had taken him in. We spent all day there, of course, but when we finally got a room, there was a curtain dividing the patient next to him. And she was very agitated, yelling, wouldn't cooperate. She was disoriented. And when the nurse came over to our side, we just had a conversation, and what had happened was she was dehydrated. She was dehydrated. She had thought she was drinking water or enough water, and it turned out that she got toxic because she wasn't releasing those toxins, and it affected her brain function.
Yes.
She was disoriented. She didn't know what was going on. And the nurse said that a lot of disorientation and the early onset with some of those brain function diseases is tied right to hydration or lack thereof.
Yeah. And so I know your mobile people might be thinking, well, wait a minute, I can't stay hydrated because I'm always on the go. Mm-hmm. When I was running around, hopping from job site to job site, I had investment properties, I had land development. And so I was driving a lot. I was also at that time preparing for a bodybuilding competition where every day I had to drink nearly a gallon of water. And that's a hard thing to do when you don't have a bathroom handy. I mean, it's one thing when you're in an office building and you can run down the hall or upstairs or downstairs, but when you're mobile, that's tricky. So the tip I will give all of your people is find medical office buildings or public government buildings. They are going to have clean, accessible restrooms. So drink as much as you need to drink, but know where the libraries are, know where, I mean, even if you can walk into a medical office building and they've generally got the restrooms right there. And the parking is pretty accessible. So
that's a great suggestion. I never even thought of that.
And avoid going to the restrooms. People are always like, well, there are gas stations all over that you can go to the restrooms at. Yep. But then what do you have to walk past? You've got to walk past all that nasty food to get to the bathroom. And it's like, oh my gosh, maybe I need this, I don't know, this Debbie fruitcake thing, whatever it might be. All of that food that, is brightly packaged and called the chips, the cookies. Oh, I'll just grab one of these, the Slurpee or the slushy or whatever those things are, avoid the gas station bathrooms, because it's only going to put you in a situation where you're in a moment of weakness and you're going to grab a candy bar and that's going to defeat your mindful eating for the day.
That is a really great tip. And I can think of several other reasons to skip the bathroom at the gas stations, but the cheap food and the low energy food is a great one. Yeah. Excellent suggestions.
So
I love that. So when it comes to your 4 pillars, I know you started with recovery. Was that a 4 pillar, or we just kicking off with emotional energy?
So my 4 pillars are recovery, emotional energy, nutrition, and movement. And I start my 4 pillars off with recovery, because if you are not sleeping, all of these pillars are tied together. But I find that if you are not sleeping and getting quality sleep, there's a difference between just sleeping and getting quality sleep. When you're not getting quality sleep, you don't have the bandwidth that you need to be on point for all of your activities that day. You find yourself, and studies have shown that when you lack sleep, you start grabbing all those high sugar, high processed foods. And then in addition to that, when you're lacking sleep, you don't have the energy to put any movement in your day. So sleep and recovery are super important. Some of the other things that go into recovery are getting sunshine on your eyes and on your skin every day. That resets your circadian rhythm so you can get a good night's sleep. Like we talked about, hydration is super important. And then another thing in recovery, and we talked about the guilt with giving yourself the gift of recovery. When you have a massage, people will say that that's a foo-foo thing. You know what? You are working hard. Give yourself that 1 hour break once a month or a half-hour break, because when you have a massage, what's happening is you are moving that lymphatic fluid through your body. Your lymphatic system is like a sewer system in your body that doesn't have a pump. And especially when you are sitting in your cars and stagnant all day long, that lymphatic fluid just kind of sits and collects. So you need to move, and you need to also give yourself the gift of massage so that you can move that lymphatic fluid through your body, and toxins, cellular debris, and other waste products can be eliminated from your body. You will feel so much better.
I just what I needed was an excuse or a really good reason to justify a massage, and I actually have one booked for this weekend. So that's really good information to know. I've heard about the lymphatic system before. I didn't realize it didn't have a pump. So get pushing this through really makes sense. Yep. Okay, I love that.
And here's the thing too: your brain has its own lymphatic system called the glymphatic system. And at night when we sleep, and this is why it's important to get quality sleep, because your brain will compress and expand, kind of like a sponge, but not that dramatically. But what it does is it pumps the toxins through your brain. Your cerebral spinal fluid is pumped through your brain to remove those toxins. Now, if your glymphatic system is not functioning well because your lymphatic system isn't functioning well, those toxins are going to sit there, and sometimes they can be reabsorbed into your body. So it's a good idea to get that stuff moving and get it out.
Definitely. Do you have a favorite way? Well, I'll ask it this way. How do you know if you've had quality sleep?
When you wake up in the morning, and you can wake up maybe before your alarm clock goes off, you're not hitting the snooze button. When you get up and you feel rested and energized, that's when you know that you've gotten quality sleep. Now, I wear an Oura ring, so I'm able to see, what my recovery looks like. And my Aura Ring might say, well, boy, you didn't really recover that well last night. My sleep might have been good, but my daily stressors from the day before, my sleep didn't really compensate for. So, it's good to have some of those outside markers to help you understand. Now, a day or two of maybe not getting adequate sleep, you're not going to feel slumpy, but after a week of not getting good sleep, you're going to feel slumpy. And that's when
Yeah.
you need to really make some changes.
Excellent. I love that you use the Aura Ring as well. I've been trying to use it. I tend to want to fling everything off my hands whenever I'm sleeping, but I find that data. I love measuring data
Yeah.
and just saying, okay, here's how I can improve or what have you. So that's really helpful. It's Aura, O-U-R-A, I think.
O-U-R-A. Yep.
Yeah. All right. Wonderful. So then that leads right into the emotional pillar.
Yes. And with the emotional pillar, awareness. Awareness is so key to the emotional energy pillar. Because when you are aware that you are frustrated and angry, then you can ask yourself, wait a minute, why? Why am I this angry over this situation? Do I need to be this angry? How can I be less angry? What can I do differently so that I'm not this angry the next time around? And like we talked about before, when your brain is so powerful and there's an emotional side and there's a problem solving side. So acknowledging that you are in an emotional state and then flipping the switch on that and start asking yourself questions will turn on the problem solving side of your brain. So that instead of sitting there and wallowing in your anger and replaying a negative conversation over and over in your head, you are now saying, okay, what can I do differently so that I don't have this negative conversation? Is this somebody that might be in my inner circle, but they are not in my corner and I need to bump them to the outside? So your brain starts solving those problems. Is this a toxic person that I should try and turn the volume down on and not deal with? So there's lots of problem solving things, but a couple of the tools that I like to give people are, number one, if you find yourself in that emotional state, take out a piece of paper and start journaling gratitude. Start journaling all the things that you are thankful for. And they can be little, they can be big, they can be, recent, they can be something in the past. But that also is going to completely change your mindset because you cannot be grateful and angry at the same time. So you're still working on the emotional side, but you are releasing these great endorphins. And one of the other things that you're releasing too is oxytocin. When you practice gratitude, you are releasing oxytocin, which is, it is a very high upstream hormone that controls things like cortisol. And cortisol is our stress hormone. So it's so important to be able to be aware of where you are emotionally and then have the tools to combat that. So journaling is one really good thing.
I'm a huge advocate for journaling and even gratitude. So I'm so glad that you brought this up. And it doesn't even have to be anger, right? It could just be stress. If somebody's feeling stressed, brokenhearted, or hurt, or whatever it might be, just focusing on gratitude can help at least nudge you out of it.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah. Yep. Awesome.
And then too, I have people practice gratitude sometimes before they go to bed, especially if they have a hard time sleeping. I have them practice gratitude before they go to bed, and it puts them in more of a calm state so they are able to sleep.
That's an excellent suggestion too. I usually do a little forgiveness mantra before I go to bed, forgive myself and others kind of a thing. And I try to start with gratitude, but I find that it requires a little kickstart in the morning because my brain it's ready to get to work, right? It's like ready to meditate. Let's take this on. But I might switch gratitude to the evening. I like that.
Okay. So here's another thing that I'm going to give all of your people. And this is a super powerful tool. I use a process called habit stacking. So in the morning when I'm brushing my teeth and it's just me in the bathroom and me in the mirror, I look in the mirror and I tell myself 7 things I forgive myself for. 7 things that I like about myself and 7 things that I'm grateful for. Now you can pare this list down to 2 or 3, but once you get started rolling on this, boy, 7 things will come out automatically. And when you again start forgiving yourself for things in the past, for things that you are guilty about, you move yourself from that place of hurt to that place of healing.
Yeah. It's super powerful. Can you share a little more about the habit stacking and why you chose to do it while you brush your teeth?
Yes. Well, first of all, brushing your teeth is something that most people do a couple times a day. And what else are you going to do when you're standing there brushing your teeth? So habit stacking is a good way of making new habits become habits. It's a way of solidifying them. So if you take a new action that you would like to become a habit and you pair it with something that's already a habit, then it solidifies that until it can be a standalone.
Yeah. It's such a powerful, it's a powerful shift in the way that your brain thinks. And I think I remember reading this in BJ Fogg's Tiny Habits, or even back before he even wrote the book. But he's like, just hook it onto something you do already.
Yep.
Putting deodorant on, turning on the shower, then start doing this. If you're going to start drying off, when you pick up the towel, start doing this or saying this to yourself and just tie it in. And it helps solidify those. And then you almost find that you remember to do the asking questions even more than you brush your teeth sometimes.
Right.
You're like, oh yeah, start asking your questions. You're like, oh yeah, I better brush my teeth at the same time,
Yep.
and pick it up. It's kind of cool how it works.
So another habit stack that I have for your people, and this is especially handy when they're driving around in their cars. Whenever you stop at a stoplight, drink water. Drink your water. Whether it's 3 or 4 or 8 big gulps of water, when you stop at a stoplight, then have something to drink.
It's like a healthy drinking game.
Yeah, it is.
I love it. I love it. And another one I like to do, and this one was really helpful too. I learned this from Brendan Burchard, is when I'm leaving an appointment or where I'm leaving anything, whenever my car door closes, I take 10 deep breaths.
Oh, wow.
Just breathe 10 times. It helps me calm down in driving. It helps me become a lot more forgiving when people don't use their turn signal or they don't know how to merge, right? It just helps calm the whole thing. It changes the whole energy.
Okay. You know what? That's a great habit to get into. And here's the science behind why that is such a good thing for you. When you've come out of a meeting, your sympathetic nervous system is activated. That's your fight, flight, freeze. So your stress hormones are a little bit higher. Not a good plan when you're going to jump in your car and go sit in traffic. So if you take those 10 deep breaths, you tamp down that sympathetic nervous system and you strengthen your parasympathetic nervous system. And the parasympathetic nervous system is for digestion and recovery. And that is, it's going to give you that sense of calm so that when you go into a traffic jam or somebody cuts you off, you're more likely to just say, well, whatever, and just blow it off rather than just be really frazzled with it. So that's a great, great practice to get into.
That has helped improve my joy of driving so much. Yeah. So thanks for explaining why that makes sense. It seems so logical now. I knew it worked. I just didn't understand why.
There you go.
That's great. All right. I love it. So anything else on the emotional pillar or the emotional energy pillar?
You know what? I think that is enough for today. I don't want to bombard people with too many things in one pillar, but having the awareness is just such a big key to understanding where your emotional state is at any moment in time. And then when you have tools to be able to switch gears on your emotional, then that's a great start.
It's a huge start. And, one of the concepts that we often teach in our programs is, taking responsibility for your emotional wake, like understanding how you show up to the world and how people feel when you walk away or from a conversation, whether it's online or in person. But that also is you taking responsibility for their emotional wake within yourself.
Oh, for sure. Yep.
That's super important too. And that ties into the self-talk. That was really valuable. Thank you. And that leads to your pillar 3, which is the nutritional side.
Yeah. And you know what? And that leads right into, it kind of dovetails right off of being your best self and presenting your best self to people. And I'm not talking about physically, but when you are consuming foods that cause you to go on this roller coaster, you can't be emotionally in control when your metabolic system is on a roller coaster. When you've consumed a lot of processed foods or a lot of high sugary foods, what happens is you get this dump of glucose into your blood, but your blood can only handle so much of it. So insulin comes from your pancreas and it tries to take that glucose out. And sometimes what happens is it takes out too much glucose. And that's when you crash. So you go from feeling high and euphoric to, and then in between there, then you also have a meeting with somebody that maybe didn't go so well. So it's just one of these things that compounds on itself. And that's why nutrition is so important. If you want to show up on point and be on point for the loved ones in your lives and for your business, you need to keep your insulin level as stable as possible. And you do that by not consuming highly processed, high sugar foods. I like to tell people that in the nutrition pillar, we focus on whole real food. And how do you know if it's a whole real food? Because at one point in time, did it have a face or did it grow from the ground? That's it. If it had a face or if it has grown from the ground, then you know your nutrition is going to be on point.
That's a pretty simple way of looking at it. I like that.
Yeah. You know what, Bill? There's so many different avenues with all these different diet plans. You know what? Start there. Just start with eating whole real food. And then you can work your way into intermittent fasting or using a compressed eating window or doing, I almost hate to use the word detox, but then you can work your way into a detox where you kind of purge some of the stagnant things from your organs. And then you can see at that point when you're consuming whole real foods, you can see, okay, how does my body respond or react to this food? When you don't have the distraction and the noise of processed food in there, then you can understand more about what's really nourishing your body.
How do you do that when you work on the road and you're on a budget?
Okay. So my biggest tip is you have to, okay. So first of all, I'm going to back up and I'm going to say that, protein is a priority. You have to make protein a priority because protein is going to make you feel full. And protein is also going to keep your blood sugar pretty stable. And then to make protein a priority, you have to have it made in advance. So I actually schedule, and I have my clients schedule on their calendars a 2-hour cook session a couple times a week. And one of the things that I give my clients to cook, they're called poppers. And they are just a list of all these meatball type recipes. So I have one that's like a protein popper or a pizza popper where it's made with an Italian sausage and maybe you put a little cut up pepperoni into it and some mozzarella cheese and you use a binder that might be oatmeal or quinoa. And then you actually mix your pizza sauce right in there. You turn it into a little meatball and you cook it in mini muffin tins. And when you do this, you have these little 5-gram protein bites that you can throw a bunch of those in a container and they're in your car, in your cooler. You can take them on the go.
But that sounds delicious.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the food can taste good?
Yes. Yes. The food can taste good, and it can be, you can get to a point where they say, buy organic. You know what? Not everybody is there, and that's not accessible to everyone. Start with eating the best quality food that you can afford, but make sure that you prioritize your protein. And whether your protein is coming in the form of animal or plant, prioritize protein. That's going to feed your muscles. It's going to repair your organs. You're putting yourself through a lot of stress every day. Your carbohydrates that you're eating are not going to repair any of that. In fact, they cause inflammation in the body and will compound any damage that you have going on. So your protein is going to repair the body. Your fats are going to energize the body, but you have to make sure that you're eating the right fats as well. The seed oils, the industrial seed oils, are plasticizing and very inflammatory to your body.
Good to know. Now, do you have an opinion on how many times a day a person's supposed to eat?
No. Listen to your body. Bill, we are not a pair of pantyhose. It is not a one size fits all. So listen to your body. Some bodies do well on intermittent fasting, where you might start eating at 10 or 11 o'clock and then finish eating by 6 or 7. Here's the rules that I will say for eating. Stop eating at least 3 hours before you go to bed. Because like we talked about with the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system, when your both digestion and rest are on the parasympathetic side. But you cannot do both of those things really well. So your body is going to prioritize digestion over rest. So if you eat really close to the time you go to bed, your body is going to focus more on digesting your food and not recovering your body. So that would be one of the hard and fast rules that I have with eating, is stop eating 3 hours before you go to bed. All these arbitrary, you need to drink this many ounces of water a day, or you need to eat this many servings of fruits and vegetables a day. Bill, that's so arbitrary. I'm 5 feet tall. I weigh a little over 100 pounds. My husband is 6'4" and he weighs 175 pounds. Do you think that those two rules hold, the same for both of us?
Makes sense, right?
So listen to your body. When you take out the distraction and you take out the noise, you can listen to what makes your body feel good. For me, animal protein. I like my animal protein. That makes me feel really good. My husband is like a goat. He can work off of animal protein. He can work off plant protein, and he feels just great. But I have had clients where I have them track their food, and they are amazed at the days that they take refined flours and sugars out of their diet, how much better they feel. That was an epiphany for a couple of my clients. Yeah. They thought that they were getting energy from these processed foods, because that's what the manufacturers will tell you. But it was actually the reverse.
It's funny. I found that to be true for me too, especially as I get older, but it's the next day. So if I eat heavy carbs or sugars on one day, I'll wake up and it's like I've been hit by a truck.
Yes.
I'm like, what?
Yes.
Like my hips hurt, everything. I'm like, I feel like I'm 95, not 45,
Right. I had one client tell me when I started working with her, she said that she wakes up every day with hip pain and pain in her feet. And she said, oh, but that's normal because I'm close to 65. And I said, no. It's common, but it is not normal. And we changed her diet. She just sent me an email a few days ago that she went hiking in Colorado. And this is the first time she has ever gone hiking and not had any joint pain.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. Food is so powerful. Yeah.
It is. Yeah. And it's just it's shifting the paradigm about how we think about it. You can feel that, but okay. So let's talk about this a little bit.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people know this. They know they should be doing this. It makes sense. They hear it all the time, right? So what's the difference maker? How do you shift and say, yeah, this is my time now?
I think that the big key to this is preparation. You have to have your foods prepared in advance, because when you get home or when you're on the road traveling, if you don't have food made with you, you are going to start grabbing all kinds of things. That's going to be quick. And that's when people run. They know that they should be eating healthy. But yet when you are pinched for time, you're just going to grab. So
or if you're tired, yeah,
yes,
it's just like you say you're going to do your bookkeeping at the end of the day. You're exhausted. You're not going to do your bookkeeping. It's going to sit there for a year until April 14th. That's a really good point.
Yeah.
So you mentioned earlier though that you recommend your clients schedule like 2-hour blocks. Have you found, is it Sunday, Wednesday, Friday, or does it matter? Like, what have you found that works?
It's whatever works for them. Whatever works into their schedule. When I'm in Minnesota, I bounce between a couple different houses. And when I'm in Minnesota in the wintertime, boy, my Sunday afternoons can be very cold and dreary. I cook up a storm on my Sunday afternoons. And like these little popper things that I was telling you about, they only take 20 minutes to cook in the oven. So while you're cooking one batch, you can be preparing another batch. So you might be preparing your pizza poppers while your ground chicken. I do a ground chicken with a buffalo wing sauce and a blue cheese.
Delicious. Where are these recipes?
Yeah, I do. I've got all those recipes. Yes. And I'm happy to share them all with people. But those are things that if you've got them ready made in advance, boy, you can make trays of those things, stick them in the freezer, and then pull them out, especially if you have them like I'm not a huge proponent of plastic bags, but go ahead and use your plastic bags and stick 4 or 5 little poppers in one bag. That's going to give you 20 to 25 grams of protein in one sitting. So,
and in Phoenix, we can bake those right on our dashboards.
There you go.
I love it. Well, thank you for those tips for sure. And that leads us right into pillar 4. What's pillar 4? Pillar
4 is movement. And I'll tell you what, movement is so important. People all think, okay, well, I have to move to lose weight. But you know what? Here's the thing. You are never going to outrun a bad diet. So get your nutrition on point, start eating whole, real foods, at least be consistent. 80% of the time, 70% of the time, start doing that. And then add this movement into your day. Another misnomer is that, or myth is that you have to move your body an hour and a half a day or 45 minutes a day. You know what? We are not all there. Some people are, and that's great. But again, look in the mirror and say, okay, I accept where I'm at right now. I'm having a hard time scheduling a half hour of movement in the day. Start with 5 minutes. And I have a YouTube video that is a 4-minute full body weight workout that you can do in the size of about a yoga mat. So there's no excuses when you're traveling. If you're in a hotel, if you have limited space in your house, you can do this in the size of a yoga mat. And it's 4 minutes. If you have 10 minutes that day, do it. You do the 8 moves for 4 minutes. Well, they're 30 seconds each. So you do 8 moves for 30 seconds each and then rest for 2 minutes and do them again. And you are getting a full body weight cardio workout. And one of the things that happens when you work out is you create this chemical in your body called BDNF, brain-derived neurotropic factor. And it is like miracle grow for your brain. It's what helps establish new neural connections in your brain and helps the plasticity of your brain. So by just moving your body, you can actually feed your brain.
Now that's interesting. And I love that you give people space and grace, right? That's my theme for the last couple of years to start where they're at. And so this doesn't mean gym membership.
No. It doesn't mean going out and buying any equipment. Nothing. You don't need a set of dumbbells, nothing. You just need a small, maybe 3x6 space that you can do some movement in. Yeah.
Small space in 4 minutes.
Yes.
I
Yes.
think we can all spare that.
And you know what? And that is such a gift to give yourself. That movement, that time to move, that 4 minutes.
Yeah.
And the other thing that'll tie into too is your lymphatic system. When you move your body like that, that helps to push that sewer system. It helps to get that sewer system working and push out those toxins. So again, you're going to have better brain function because now you're pushing the toxins through and you're getting the BDNF. And you're just going to feel when you work out, when you move your body, you create these endorphins. And again, that's going to give you that energetic, happy boost. And everybody needs more of that.
Yeah. Well, especially when you're a solopreneur out here trying to make things work, it takes so much energy to operate a business and brain function to figure out and get creative because we got to differentiate somehow. So you got to think a little outside the box. But this is the kind of stuff you need to do.
Yeah. Yep.
I love that. Any other tips that you'd have for pillar 4?
Let's see. In my movement, you know what? Listen to your body with movement. Do not do something just because someone else is doing it. A lot of times I get asked, what's the best exercise to do? And my response is the one that you like to do. Because if you like to move your body in that way, you're going to continue to do it. So if walking is your jam, then you walk. And maybe that means for your people that they park further away. I mean, we all hear about, park at the back of the parking lot. Yep, do that. Park at the back of the parking lot. And that way, you're getting some extra movement and walk. When you walk from your car to that building, walk like you're late. Don't just kind of ho-hum it. Because again, here's where you're activating that other nervous system. You're going from that parasympathetic nervous system where you've been just kind of sitting and sedated in your car to now you need to be on point with your client. You need to be energized with your client. So you walk like you're late to get from your car to your client. And that will activate your sympathetic nervous system and it'll get you going.
That's interesting. You know, I do something kind of similar. I walk, I call it walk with intention.
Yes.
So I stay present on it and I focus on it. I'm almost having a conversation like I'm instructing my body to increase my heart rate and to get things up, burn that body fat or just pump me up basically. So I'm staying in it to walk there because you see it all the time. People say, oh yeah, I walk. But then you watch them walk and it's like more of a mosey and it doesn't feel intentional. I was doing that too. I'm just like, but I wasn't getting any results. I'm like, well, I don't think this is what the intention was. So I'm going to walk with intention now.
Nope.
That way. Cool. And what else? You just sparked something else for me too. What's your take on stretching?
You know what? I like stretching. So there are 4 pieces to my movement pillar. One of them is making sure that you get your heart rate up a couple times a week. You don't need to do it for hours at a time. I love HIIT training because you get your heart rate up and then you let it recover. And then you get it up for like 30 seconds and then you let it recover for a couple minutes. And you can get an amazing workout in just 15 minutes doing that. But so that's the cardiovascular piece that I like with movement. And then there's the stretching piece, which we need to all make sure that our muscles are pliable. So stretching and mobility is very important because here's the thing, Bill. I mean, we're not that old, but yet when you lose mobility in your shoulders, you are not going to be dressing yourself. And then you have to rely on somebody else to do that, or you're going to lose your independent living. So you got to keep your joints healthy. You have to keep your, the mobility and the flexibility. And to do that, you need to stretch. Then the other piece of my movement is balance. That's something that people will lose right away. We don't pay attention to balance. We sit so often that we lose our balance. And if you watch people, they need to have help. You know, they assist themselves is what I'm trying to say. When they stand up, they'll use the arms of the chair, they'll use the desk, whatever it is, because they don't maybe necessarily have that balance and strength. Strength training, super, super, super important because we start losing muscle mass in our 30s. And studies have shown that people with the strongest leg muscles and the strongest grip strength remain living independently longer.
Oh, interesting.
For your people, the whole reason that we are running the way we are is to have freedom. We want to have freedom of time. We want to have freedom of finance. And what does that matter if in the process we've lost our health? And all that time then that we've freed up is spent going to doctor appointments. And all that finances that we've accumulated are spent on medical bills.
What a great way to round this out and highlight the importance of the 4 pillars of health and wellness. Jane, thank you so much for sharing so much of your insight, wisdom, and the practical steps, practical tiny little steps that we can be taking right now to maintain our health, keep our health, restore our health as we build our empires and our business.
To optimize. We want to optimize our health. We don't want to just maintain because you know that if you're not growing,
you're dying.
You're dying. Yep.
Jane, thank you so much for sharing so much of your wisdom. Thank you for being here.
You are very welcome. Thank you, Bill. I appreciate your time.
And if people want to learn more about what it is that you offer and get in your orbit, Jane, what's the best way to do that?
Oh, for sure. So the best way to get in touch with me, visit my website. And that's the number 4-pillarshealth.com. And there you will find, there's a free download. It's the 4 lifestyle tools for better health. Again, these are real simple, easy things to implement. And then, there's also a survey that people can take online if they want to see, okay, which pillar might need help. There's a quick survey that they can take. And then I can discuss the results with them and give them some practical, easy tips to improve that pillar, which again will have trickle down effects into the other pillars.
Yeah, great. And where are the popper recipes? Are they?
Yes, absolutely. Email me and I will send you my popper recipes and you can get do it. Please do it. I will send those to you and then you can get to my email through my website.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, I'm going to post all this for those of that are listening. If you want to connect with Jane, get in her orbit, check out her website and all of the amazing coaching and mentoring that she offers for your health and wellness. Do that. And then I will have all those links in the show notes. Wherever you're listening to this, you'll find those links. Jane, once again, thank you so much for being here with us.
You are welcome. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Sign and Thrive podcast for notaries, brought to you by the Notary E-Journal. Notaries that are diligent about compliance and committed to customer service are loving this journal. Here's what Danielle has to say.
Hi, I'm Danielle, a notary signing agent in California, exclusively using Notary E-Journal since August 2020. My favorite features are those that make the process more efficient while remaining diligent about compliance. Scanning the information off the signer's ID ensures accuracy. Commonly notarized documents are preloaded and searchable, which speeds along the process and allows me to focus on compliance and service without sacrificing record keeping. The Notary E-Journal has enhanced my productivity and allowed me to provide better service.
Did you catch that? Commonly used document titles are preloaded and searchable. It's another awesome feature that helps notaries be more efficient at the signing table, especially when you're handling mortgage loan or estate planning packages. Check out some of those preloaded documents in the Notary E-Journal for yourself. Try it for just $1 at notarycoach.com/ E-Journal.